And we have, as recognized, no citizens wish to address the board, so we'll move on to regular business. First item is approval of the July 23rd, 2025 committee of the whole meetings as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Rebecca, from trustee McNeil. We have a second. And a second from trustee Martinez. Roll call.
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. All right, we have a discussion regarding the bids received for the new public works facility. That, Mr. Dennis?
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, so as you recall, previously in one of my board updates, we mentioned that we went out for the public works facility. That included 31 bid packages, several alternates. And now we've opened them. FQC, Williams, they've both been involved in going through the bids, mostly FQC. Recognize, I thought this journey would be a little bit easier at this point, but unfortunately, we did receive bids totaling higher than the original budget number that the board basically agreed. Which FQC, Jack Hayes, and Mark Monero are here. They're going to get more into detail of the numbers that we currently sit in. Also, after some discussion of going through those bids and talking with the low bid contractors, trying to understand if there was anything that was, jumped out at the contractors to indicate maybe the team on our side missed. We didn't find anything large to report, but we then, as a village, gave direction to FTC and Williams coordinate with them to do some value engineering to understand maybe there were things that maybe were over-engineered or maybe overlooked, which was beneficial. We did indicate as simple as the water heaters for the building. They were most likely oversized, which we're going through that process right now. There were some electrical components that we were able to get equivalent items to, and some other ones, and FQC may get into detail on that. But along with that journey, we did wind up having to go through and make some hard decision on more reductions to get us down to that budget number that we originally discussed months ago. So I did want to bring that to your attention. It's been a difficult process, and FQC and Williams, everybody involved has put in a lot of work, a lot of effort. I think it was more than anticipated. I will let Mark and Jack go over their presentation numbers to give you a little more of a detailed breakdown.
Dennis, Jack Hayes, Frederick Quinn have been before speaking with you about the project. And so in our continued services for the village, wanted to just give you kind of an overview of where everything stands and what's happened since we opened the bids on July 17th. So on July 17th, all the bids are open. So we break the job up to 31 bid packages. We did 140 some bids, I think, total across the 31 packages. And so then what we do is we sit down with the low responsive responsible bidder in each category, and we vet them through looking at their bid, that it was responsive, responsible, they had their qualifications, their bid, all their criteria that are outlined in the bidding specifications. And then we do a scope review with them to make sure that what we have identified in the bidding documents, they actually have agreed to and actually look at the documents and in the bidding process that they concur that they have the scope consistent with the way we outlined it and specified. And that's in the bidding documents. So when we went through that process, we came to the realization that the low bids in all of the categories totaled an amount greater than what we had estimated previously. So in the board packet, in this presentation that we have, what we tried to do here is outline, there's two main categories of costs on a project. There's the construction costs, which are the largest parts. And then there's the master budget, which are all the soft costs. Furnishings, utilities, design fees, equipment, okay? So those are kind of owner costs, what we call soft costs, and there's the construction costs, think of it as bricks and mortar and all the work that goes into building. So we went through and we tallied all the costs of construction, and we compared it against our previous estimate at 60% construction documents, which was the last time we came to the board, and then our original estimate of design development. And the end result of that process is that the bids came in about $600,000 over on the construction side. And then we looked at the soft costs, and the main cost that was captured on bid day was the equipment costs, which are the things that Dennis, that go into the public works facility to support operations. So vehicle lifts, lube systems, compressed air, loose equipment, those kinds of things that they use inside the building. That number also came in over budget by just over $100,000. So the total between the two was, we were looking at about a $700,000 budget gap between what we had anticipated and what happened on bid day. There's a million reasons for it. You know, there's a lot of fluctuation going on in the market right now because of the concern about tariffs. One of the main components of the bid that came in over budget was electrical, which is we're seeing happen in the construction market, that the cost of electrical supplies and equipment and fixtures are just ballooning. And with the uncertainty in what's going on in the economic situation, tariff concerns, a lot of contractors have been protecting themselves. So it's an unfortunate reality of where we landed. So recognizing that, you know, that's a large number that we would have to come back to the village and ask for approval for to maintain the project. We getting advisement from the village with regard to how we could proceed in the best course of action to discuss the reality of this overage with the trade contractors. So after that conversation, then we entered into a conversation with the low responsible bidder in each trade contract, in each trade category, to determine what's going on. What can we do in this project to kind of capture some things that potentially are either, I'll say, nice to have, over designed, or there's a better mousetrap out there that we can accomplish the same with some cost savings. So Mark Winger in our office and Williams staff in their office, and the engineers and Dennis all then went to work to identify what we could do. And if we could go to the next slide, so this is the VE consideration slide. So quite literally, we went through all 31 packages and looked at everything that was in there, and there were some things that we could do to save money. So there are savings as low as $1,200. There are savings line items that are as high as $25,000, and everywhere in between. So we went trade by trade, identified what we could do. Simple things like the floor tile. I think we're saving $4,000 on using a comparable floor tile from a different provider versus what was specified. We are changing one of the features of the lockers, where all the lockers had power in them. Now we're going to have a charging station in the locker room versus powering all the locker room, individual lockers. We had certain kind of details on the precast, on the assembly of precast, not the look, feel, aesthetic, not that side, like the assembly, how the pieces are put together and how they're connected. We went through that with the engineers. The precast provider provided some suggestions. We reviewed it up from an engineering standpoint, and we applied those savings. So we went through all of those different trade packages, all 31 packages, and identified ways that we could identify savings. And Dennis was a true partner in this process because there were probably a few things that we had to ask him to, maybe, cut a little bit of meat off the bone a little bit to help find a few dollars here and there. So it was a real collaborative process. So that came to about just over $400,000 in VE savings that we were able to identify. Then the last step with the contractors was to go back to them and say, listen, the village only established the budget X for this project. We're getting very close, but we need your help to make this project a reality. So then through Mark's efforts in talking with the trade contractors, we're able to get another almost $50,000 in voluntary price reductions from the low responsive responsible bidders. So the VE process resulted in $456,000 in projected savings based on the way we're looking at the project right now. So the bid amount on bid day, which was $14,067,000, came down to $13,584,000 versus the budget, which was $13,463,000. So about $120,000, still over the budget, but significantly better than we were on bid day. And the last and final thing that we did with Dennis's help was we reviewed the bid for equipment, which goes back to the lifts, the vehicle lifts, the lube systems, the compressed air, the loose equipment. And it was identified that there's a number of things that were in that equipment that were maybe a little different than what you expected originally. Maybe a little bit, somebody got a little bit fancy with their specifications, and there's some things in there that weren't potentially needed. And there were some ideas on how to save money, specifically on compressed air. And then there were other things that were identified that Dennis would rather purchase as he lives in the building and learns how the building is going to support his operation, rather than coming in and having what is purchased drive his operation. So we went from being $100,000 over budget on equipment to being $100,000 under budget. So that's a $200,000 swing on equipment. So when you factor that soft cost or owner purchased item into the total project cost, we came to $15,506,000 versus the $14 million or $15,474,000. So it's about $30,000 over what we came to the board with previously, versus the $700,000 that we were with. So it's been quite an effort. It's been a true collaborative team process, and we have consensus between the architects, the engineers, Dennis, and ourselves that the recommended path here that we're laying out for you is delivering the building that is needed. We didn't cut square footage, we didn't cut operations, we didn't cut, needed space. The things that are needed are going into this building, not a penny more, but the things that are needed. And so we're trying to give you kind of a picture of where things stand and make sure that this is still in line with the board's vision for the project as we get through the final step with permitting and review, any permit review comments that could potentially require some additional tweaking to the final design as we get permit review. So I know that's a lot of information. It's been a long process, but we're here. We have hopefully answers to any questions that might be.
Anybody on the board have questions? Bid alternatives.
Yes, sir.
You're going to eliminate the generator.
So the bid alternates, if you flip to the last page, that's a great question, because in the process of bidding, we did identify additive bid alternates and deductive bid alternates, so that if we got to this position, we had to do some things, or we had the opportunity. The hope was we'd had some opportunities to add the mezzanine. That's what always been required. So the bid alternates are just that, and we would need input from the board as to if any of these additive cost items would be available to include in the project, which would add cost to the project. The eliminate generator idea was something that we put into the bidding documents because we knew that it was going to be a big dollar item. We didn't know if that would be something that the village would be amenable to, as a cost saving measure. That would mean that the building wouldn't be able to function as a kind of a mission critical facility unless you have the ability to bring a generator to connect it.
And that's a problem. This is part of the public safety triangle.
Yeah.
And if we had a natural disaster, that building could be used to house people. Without a generator, then that's just a building.
So that's why it was an old,
Yeah.
not a recommendation, just wanted to have it out there as talk.
That building does need a generator.
We agree. So that's why we don't have it on the meetings. These are just bid alternates that we had, you know, out of respect for the architect, if he was here, he'd want you to consider adding the stone liner, the precast stone liner and continuous stone sill on the exterior. We still have the ashlar stone pattern on the stone, on the precast to comply with the village ordinance. We do have cast stone window sills. These are a couple of added features. And I'm speaking for Dennis, but if we can get the mezzanine one way or the other, we have two options for the mezzanine. We have a built mezzanine with an elevator, which is a concrete poured structure as part of the building, or there's an option to install a modular mezzanine without an elevator as kind of a fixture piece of equipment after the building is done. Good question.
Any more, trustee Mason?
No. Everybody just gotta understand that this is part of public safety. It's public works. Without public works, police and fire don't have to try it.
Trustee Luther?
You just mentioned a potential for a mezzanine without the elevator. I don't see that on this list of, oh, it's down on the bottom.
Down at the bottom section there, yeah, it's the modular mezzanine. So we wanted to give an alternative approach to the mezzanine because we know that storage and capacity is a big issue. And we knew that the cost of the structural mezzanine with an elevator was going to be significant. So we investigated and worked with Williams to identify a provider for, essentially it's a stick-built in place modular mezzanine. So it's more of a piece of furniture than a part of the building. So we could finish the building and let's say, you know, a year from now, you're ready to allocate some additional money to go buy that and install a mezzanine at that point in time.
My question was just for I guess for Director Heinrich, with the elevator, is it really critical to your crew to be able to use the mezzanine more effectively? Safety or anything, or can you explain whether that would be needed or not needed, or could the elevator part go, or what is your thought?
Well, the elevator part could go, that's more just transporting individuals from first floor up to the mezzanine. You carry some of the equipment that we would put up there, but that could easily be done with this equipment. I just want to add to that, I know I talked about the mezzanine, but some of you may have walked through Village Hall, the new Village Hall today, and I think you can see the lack of storage that building, has. So I feel it's very important that, we at least consider it, because especially down at Public Works, there's a lot of items for other departments, especially events, parades, you name it. We have the items and we have to go somewhere. So currently we have a lot of items that are sitting outside, like the nice fencing that we put down for the 4th of July parade. Matter of time to put stuff for us, and we were replacing it, and it was very expensive. Just wanted to have.
Trustee McCann?
Jack, would you say in your professional opinion that this ongoing increase in costs is related to just inflation and the tariff crisis, and you don't really see this having any type of slowdown in this big process?
No, I would agree with that. We do a lot of public sector work and they're, the challenge is the numbers are a little bit all over the place right now because of a lot of uncertainty. And I don't see that easing up anytime soon, and contractors are going to want to protect themselves.
And with that said, we still, when we look at these bid alternates, we still would have the opportunity going forward to install these at our own pace.
Can I go one by one? The structural steel mezzanine with the elevator would need to be part of the recommendation and award from the very beginning, because it's part of the structural component and construction of the building. The material storage bins is something that you could add at a later time. It's a site component, and that would be something that could be added. The fuel island system is something that could be added at a later time. The precast items would all have to be done up front, and from my perspective, let's just keep it simple and stay what we got in the job and not even consider those at this time. And the modular mezzanine with no elevator is something we could decide down the road. So really the only one that we would have to know going into the project would be the first one, the structural steel mezzanine with the elevator. And the reason why that one, why there's a distinction there is because it's a part of the building, and it will be part of the permitted part of the building, inspected part of the building, and so forth. You need an elevator to comply with ADA criteria. It's not an operational thing so much as an ADA accessibility standard. Because the mezzanine is above a certain size, it needs to have an elevator. So that's why that one would have to be decided as part of the recommendation.
Thank you. I also agree with my colleague here on the board, with trustee Mason, where I agree we do need to consider the generator for safety.
The generator is in the big scope. We were just looking at a cost factor that we were looking at off of. It is in the basement.
Trustee Peterson.
I really think that we need to go with the structural steel mezzanine with the elevator. We've been looking at this and looking at this, and Dennis told us from the get-go that every single department in this village depends on public works, all of them, parks, everybody. And we need this space. We all want those barricades out there to protect the kids. We want all the Christmas decorations. You know, when the parade happens, you know, you roll out all of the floats that we all need and want, but they have to go somewhere. And if they're just housed outside at the old public works, we're gonna have to keep replacing things. It's madness. We have one chance to build this right. And we have been waiting 45, 50 years to do it. Let's build it right. We need that mezzanine, we need that elevator. And for ADA purposes, what happens if one of the guys gets hurt? He's out of that line, he can't go upstairs anymore. This is ridiculous to even think about. We need this. That's how I feel. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson. I just have a few questions also. The material storage bins, are they where you would be storing all this stuff? Trustee, Mr. Enbrook?
So the material storage bins would house cold patch, our backfill aggregate, topsoil, basically to keep them out of the elements as far as the rain. A lot of times we have issues with our gravel pile during the winter because it gets rained on, we have a water main break, and guys gotta go sit out there for a day, plus days off to try and get it, be able to put in the hole. So it's basically the materials that we use out on the road. They would be kept individually, stacked, dry, and ready.
So they're not storage bins for all the stuff. They're storage bins that would be like a landscaping company that covered for all your yard materials.
You're correct.
Okay, I wasn't sure what the difference was. I'm looking at the cost here. Just a quick estimate. If we were to go with structural mezzanine, we'd be at probably $1.9 million above what we're at right now. If you add that, $568,000 for the structural mezzanine, storage bins, 500. But if you went down that list and just did it all, it'd be like $1.9 million.
So you wouldn't do all of these. These are choices. So you did the first three. Those are three discrete items that would be value add to the operation. So that's $1,400,000 plus, around there. The precast ones are really not, I don't think, wouldn't be strongly recommended. Okay, so I don't think you need to consider those next three. And if you do the structural mezzanine, you don't need to do the modular.
But we still need the generators, or.
The generator's already in the job.
Correct. But if we.
So if you did the first three, it's about $1,400,000 more than what we have as the construction cost of $13,584.
Okay. I'm just curious, because at some point you need a determination from the board how we want to go forward with number one, the bids and the alternatives.
So my expectations were, due to the situation we're in, is to bring it to you, present it to you tonight. And then at the next board meeting, bring the bids that we want you to approve, so we can move forward. There was a set schedule, we wanted to have shovel in the ground in September. Securing all permits, but that was the anticipation tonight, is to get tonight up how each trustee felt in a direction that FUC and Wellington can start going to, and if that's getting bids at the next board meeting to present, and hopefully making it a simple decision at the next board meeting and not going through another presentation.
Okay, and because Trustee Peterson's right, you always get one bite at the apple. If we say we're gonna do this next year, we're gonna do this the following year, something comes up in the meantime, and whatever you say you're gonna get done doesn't get done. In my opinion, so if we're gonna do this, we need to do it right first time, whether it's landscaping or the material storage bin or the fuel island or the generator. Those are definite things. Me, I lean more towards the modular mezzanine because you can use a forklift to push things up there. You can put a platform on a forklift to get people up there if you need to. I would look at that cost savings there, but whatever we're gonna do, we need to do it upfront and make that plan, in my opinion, as a trustee.
So a comprehensive public works facility would have the mezzanine, would have storage bins, would have a fuel line.
That's my opinion.
It would have those three.
Yep. So, anything else you guys need from us tonight, or Trustee Bluthart, you got something?
Yes. I guess some follow-up on the mezzanine. Do we know how much in a square foot of storage we're gonna get with either the modular or the structural? Are they similar, identical?
Identical in square footage.
Okay, so the only difference other than the structural or the modular is the elevator.
Correct. I mean.
So we're getting the same storage, so the people that are concerned about the storage in the building, if we went with the modular, we would have the same, roughly the amount of storage that we would have with either.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, no, I understand that. That obviously, and then obviously we need to look at our budget, and so we're gonna need a financial look at this for the next meeting to show where we would come up with these additional dollars of $1 million plus for all three, or one option, whatever options we decide. We're gonna need to see that we have that money available and so on before we can go to it. That's all I.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Let's move on to the next thing, discussion about the plans of report recommendation. For village zoning ordinance on Title 10, modifying section 10-5-1D to allow civic uses as a special use within the state district.
Everyone. So last Wednesday, the Planning and Zoning Board approved all three applications pertaining to the Public Works facility. The first one is the Planning Hearing 25-05, which is the text amendment. Without the text amendment, you can't move on to the special use site plan review or tier variances. So the text amendment is pretty simple. It's just adding the use civic uses as a special use within the estate zoning. And in my staff report, you see where it goes, half will fill it, half automatically. Some of the questions that came from planning and zoning, would other uses come before the board? And the answer would be yes. Are we expecting several public works facilities? No. So I think this is the best option, is just to add the use to the table as a special use, and then we go through the special use process. We did. So that's the first one. Any questions?
Trustee Peters, do you have any questions?
Now this one.
Trustee Martinez?
If I read this correctly, it was a 6-0 vote.
Yes.
Trustee Luciano? Trustee Luther? Trustee Masek?
All right. So the second one is Planning Zoning Board 25-06. Is the consideration of the civic uses within the estate zone for the creation of a new public works facility. The site plan review with 2 waivers that deal with design standards and landscaping were also presented as part of this application. So basically, the reason for having this is, just like it was mentioned moments before, is to have a robust building that has the capacity to house all of the equipment, the vehicles and stuff like that. Also has the ability to grow over time on the property. And also it's in a section of the village that may grow eastward. So today it might look very far off to a quadrant near unincorporated Antioch, Lake County, but down the road, it might be just part of the village, might be located centrally. So the idea is for a 42,000 square foot building, which houses the 34 or 30 vehicles and equipment that could be housed inside. It has front yard parking for the employees and visitors to Public Works facility. It has a huge area behind for the storage bins, which we'll discuss momentarily ago, the salt dome shed, and I also mentioned in my staff report the fueling tank, right? The possibility this is where it's going to go. The site is pretty typical. It's a rectangular building. The fenestration, the architectural elements were reduced. That's one of the waivers because of the cost factor. It's still going to have 2 main entrances. One will be a vestibule, which is going to be off-centered, which is for the public to go in. And then there will be another entrance for regular employees. The building itself will have 2 garage doors on either side for vehicles to come in and out. And then the building itself will have 4 garage doors towards the back. So if someone needs to move a vehicle towards the fueling station or getting some material bin, then they could do that. I'm not sure if there's any particular questions people want to ask about. The second waiver is the landscaping. We just can't re-landscape everything accordingly because of the cost factor. But it was mentioned in the presentation by myself and by the director Heinberg that we're going to make an effort to move forward on landscaping down the road in a piecemeal manner. We can't do it all at once. It'll just be too cost prohibitive.
How much, I'm sorry, I was just gonna ask, how much cost is the landscape? Because I've heard about the landscape, but nobody's said what the cost is. And this goes back to what Trustee Peterson said to me about, if you're gonna do it, you do it right first time, because we're doing it near people's homes, and if they're driving by looking at just like a barren construction area, that may not fly very well in the face of the public.
I don't disagree. One of the hurdles that we had with the landscape architect is the code requirement is pretty excessive when it comes to the landscape and knowledge required for the site. I think it's in the packet, but the whole plan sets in there, so I'm sure there's a big, but the bid that we had received correctly, it's 20,000. It's quite a bit of a landscape. And just as a reminder, all of the west border and part of the south is not being touched. We're maintaining that natural buffer, all the landscape that was maintained in the front, a little bit on the side.
Anybody else? Trustee McNeil?
My other question related to trustee Pierce's is, would we be able to come up with like a budget and a plan of what we're gonna do per year, or somehow figure that out so we can get it done? It just doesn't sort of sit there unfinished.
Absolutely, yeah. So in that plan sheet, or the plan set is a couple of plan sheets related to it. And there's a plant list, so I can identify what plants they intend to plan there. And we can implement, that over 5 or 6 years. So, slowly landscape the entire area. Maybe we eliminate something, we don't condense it so much, but that was considered. And even in-house, maybe get a half a dozen trees and plant them, in the construction. That's not.
Other question, we do like something small to
Yeah.
put on the outside. to
Yeah,
make
we
it
go
look
to local
good.
nurseries. Parkway. That's not allowed expense, that's something for ourselves. Just to create some of a nice appearance.
Aesthetic appeal on the outside, yeah.
Absolutely.
The next item was,
I got it.
I'm sorry.
Howard, by chance, at this site, you talk about growing in the future, and I agree that we should start talking about the future just the same, doing things properly. When you say grow, is there enough room on this 11-acre parcel to add additional buildings? And I say buildings, not sheds.
Yeah, possibility. So, one of the things that came out of this, the original impervious coverage area was at 36%. Due to budgetary cuts, they went from 36 down to 30. So they shortened the back of the paved area to, save money. But there is that possibility to extend it, possibly put another building. This is a large piece of property, so it could be developed over time. Right now, we're just focusing on today's usage, expenditure.
So for me, one of the things that come to mind is the fact that we are outgrowing our current buildings, right? We're talking about moving our village hall here, and so before long, we're gonna have another conversation about the police station. And, there are the little expenses, right, that aren't so little, like asphalt. And so, we need to start talking about the possibility of having to put up more buildings and use the same shared facilities so that we don't have to go on and do additional expenses. Fencing another property, we already have one property that's gonna be fenced, so. For me, I think we need to start talking about the additional expenses we're gonna have to construct this building and do it properly, and same thing with the site. Completed, even if it is at one part at a time, as we go forward.
Thank you. The next item, Howard, was PCB 2507.
Yeah, so PZB 2507 are 2 variances associated with property. So like I explained in my staff report under the special use site plan review, the first one is the impervious coverage, the lot area. What's required is 10% for the estate zoning, and we're at 30, so we're 20% over. Usually the impervious coverage is low in the estate zoning because properties are drawing water from the aquifer from below and also for dispersing their waste as part of the septic system. Here, the municipality is getting water and sewer, so they're not taking water from the system or replenishing water. So that's the reason why it's so small, 10% lot coverage. Because if you have a house, you want to have plenty of space for clean water and for the wastewater to dissipate into the ground. The second variance, again, it was a monetary factor. There's a chain link fence with vinyl slats at 6 feet tall. Chain link fences are not allowed in residential zones anymore. People can remove them or replace them if they're existing and grandfathered. But since this is still an estate zone, it's still residential, even though it's a special use for civic uses, we still have to go through the mechanism of applying for a variance. So those are the two variances. Lot coverage and chain link fence with vinyl slats. The chain link fence is gonna go all around the paved area, like you see in my staff report. It's not the whole property. This came up in our planning and zoning meeting. So I just wanna make everyone aware, it's the paved area.
Any questions from anybody? All right, let's move on to the next item, which is item number 4. It's a discussion regarding the planning and zoning board's recommendation related to BZB 2508. Consideration for a text amendment to the zoning ordinance. Title 10, amending section 10-10-3, alpha, table 1, to allow for business support services within the downtown Antioch form-based code area in the village core district, transitional core district, and Main Street transitional district as permitted land use. This will be you again, Howard.
So the first thing I want to hit off right at the very beginning of this conversation, I'm not touching the aggregate percentage for the village core, because that's mentioned in my staff report. Besides putting this new use of business support services, it's going to be in 3 out of the 5 downtown form-based code zones. The aggregate today is 28%. And the aggregate says in the village core on Main Street between Orchard and Lake, you can't have no more than 28% of offices, which could be professional, medical, or real estate, and also personal services, which could be barber shop, salon, contractors providing their trades and services. So what I did was I created this little page going over what exists today, just to give you an idea of what this aggregate is about. The reason why I'm proposing a text amendment is because we have one of our businesses that will be moving out of the Main Street area, and he wants to move elsewhere within the zone. However, he gets a lot of his patronage from people that walk over. He gets a lot of foot traffic. He's afraid that he might have to go up to Wisconsin if he can't stay in the downtown area. So this is impressions count. And this was a conversation that I had with the business owner, Randy Nolan, who went back and forth. For some reason, he was grandfathered under a category limited manufacturing, which when we discussed over the phone and then I discussed with our legal team, it just didn't make sense. He's more of like a FedEx Kinko. He does printing, he does signage, but he's not a signorama. He's not producing channel letter sign. That's typically in an industrial manufacturing zone. He does stuff for businesses like banners, temporary sandwich board signs, printing, putting different stickers or emblems on shirts. So his use is a use that is supported by other businesses or required. Many businesses reaches out to him. For example, just reviewing some of my sign applications, a lot of businesses go to him to get their signs done for the Main Street. So the reason was, this is a use that's been here for many decades, and this is a use that we should keep. Now, I understand that this went back and forth over the years with my predecessor about how we should have more of a niche industry, how we should have more restaurants and stuff like this. But I'm still a firm believer that we should have a multiplicity of different uses. So by proposing this use as a permitted use within 3 out of 5, which you read, the 3 uses, it would still have to comply with the aggregate if someone decides to move on Main Street between Lake and Orchard. So what I did was I presented this piece of paper that shows you current businesses as of today, east of Main Street, west of Main Street. Everything in red are the businesses that fall under that aggregate. So for example, you have offices, you have a support service, you have a little bit of everything. And if you look at it, east of Main Street, you have 6 land uses that are either personal services or offices, and on the western side, you have 3. So you have 9. 9 out of 36 businesses on this strip. That comes to a percentage of 25%, so it's already 3% below the 28. And just to bring this point even further, Impressions County is gonna move out of the Main Street area to another location, so that even drops down to 22%. What I'm trying to say here, and what I'm trying to demonstrate in this piece of paper, is this is always in flux. People are gonna move in, they're gonna move out. This is still gonna be reviewed by zoning. My predecessor said most of these businesses are grandfathered. That's correct, until they decide to move out. So this is the reason why I'm proposing this text amendment on behalf of Randy Nolan, on behalf of the municipality also.
Any questions, trustee Masek?
Yeah, I think this is the whole ordinance limiting who can be down there. I was not a fan of it, never a supporter. You have to have a mixture within your family of different people, carpenters. We had restaurants down there, we don't have the parking. More restaurants, less parking. And we had a building that there was a clothing store that went unrented. I don't even know if they've got anything in there. It's a vacant building. Can't get anybody because the village keeps saying no. Could have had a renter. No. It's just not fair to the building owner. It just, to me, it just doesn't make sense that if the village wanted to sit there and say if someone put their building out and we had this ordinance and they can't sell their building within 3 months that the village buys it, I'd back the ordinance, but people have buildings that they may never be able to sell because you can't find a bid for a buyer. Just does it, I understand what's trying to be done. It doesn't make sense in the economy. There's too many people saying no.
And keep in mind, like you see in my text over here, it's a little bit of everything. You have a marker shop for pets, right? You have you have bath, kitchen suppliers, offices, right? You also have beauty parlor. You have David Corns, the architect, who's in town. So it's a variety of uses. It's not they're all nail salons or they're all barber shops.
Well, I understand that, but you had a business that couldn't rent for a year. Because he couldn't find, we were saying, nope, we're full on these types of businesses.
Right, and one thing.
So then he lost a year of revenue that he could have got, and he can't sell the building because he can't get anybody to fit in there under this category. So you're asking someone to give up potentially 30 grand of income.
And what I put in my last sentence is formative page. And I read the various staff reports from my predecessor. I read the minutes associated with these discussions going back and forth. A person can always apply for a variance if they're over the aggregate, or be on a case by case. So it's not like it's not allowed after 28. I just want to make that point clear.
Could you do us the favor and read this out loud so we get it on the public record? With the last sentence that actually addresses Mr. Trustee Masek's concerns?
If a business wants to lease a spot on Main Street that is considered personal service or office and is over the 28% aggregate, then the business will need to apply for a variance. This was described and discussed by the village board by Michael Garrigan over several meetings.
Thank you. And I was the no vote. Because you gotta, it's proven it doesn't work just on one business. 1 year couldn't find a renter.
Thank you, trustee Masek. Trustee Bluthart?
Just a quick question, have the village received any formal applications for a variance regarding this ordinance that you're aware of?
Not since I've been here for
Thank
half a
you.
year.
Under Michael, they did.
Trustee McNeil?
I'm in favor of the text amendment change for Impressions Count. I think they're already there, and I agree with trustee Masek. It's always good to have a mixture of services so that we're getting people into the restaurants and the stores when customers are coming in for a service, then they might want to go out to eat and use things. And I also agree with him. I'm not a huge fan of the 28% cap, but I know that that's not what we're talking about tonight. But for right now, yes, the impressions count text amendment I would be in favor of, but I don't have any questions.
Councilman Peters, anything else?
Just the same, I agree, if, I'm looking at the planning and zoning board, they all voted 6-0 in favor.
Councilman Peterson?
I agree with the two. I'd like to keep impressions count. The other businesses in town depend on them and, they work in tandem with each other, so I agree with this.
Okay, and just my input is, I agree too, we need to make this change, and it's a good change. As far as the aggregate number, I understand why it was done, I was here when it was done. It's so that we don't just get lawyers row, or real estate row, or, bath fittings row. It's trying to get a mixture downtown. And as you said, people could come with the variance, so, sometimes, in my opinion, other people may disagree. It's not always about the dollars, it's about what's best for Antioch. So that's all I have to say. This is going to the agenda. Yep, all right. Any other business? We have a motion to adjourn from the committee of whole meeting. Move.
Second,
Trustee Bluthart and trustee Peterson. Roll call? Yes. All in favor?
aye.
All right. You need a 5-minute break? We can speak.
Okay, we're gonna call the regular meeting to order at 7:39 PM. I will call a roll call. Trustee Mason.
Here.
Trustee Luther.
Here.
Neil.
Here.
Christina.
Here.
Trustee Pierce.
Present.
Trustee Peter.
Present.
And Mayor Gardner absent. So I will second. Trustee Pierce is Mayor Pro Tem.
So moved.
Second,
Motion by Trustee Luther, second by Trustee Peterson. Any discussion? I'll call roll. Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Peterson.
yes.
6 voting yes. No, no.
Not you. All righty. All right, there's no absent trustees wishing to attend remotely, no mayoral report. Did any citizens add themselves? Okay. First item is the consent agenda, which is approval of the July 23rd, 2025 public hearing and regular meeting minutes as presented. Approval of a resolution authorizing a special event liquor license to professional beverage services for the Village of Antioch Small Town Smokeout event on September 13th, waiving all fees. And number 3 on the consent agenda is approval of resolution approving the 2025 Tag Day schedule, resolution number 25-64. Do I have a motion to approve, or does anybody want something taken off?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by trustee Peterson, second by trustee McNeil. Roll call.
Mason.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez.
Yes.
Pierce.
Aye.
Peterson.
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no. No. And the motion passes. Under the regular business, we have a consideration and approval of a payable of accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $1,386,570.59. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Peterson, second by trustee McNeil. Any questions from the board? Roll call.
Mason.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Next item is consideration and approval of an ordinance amending the Village of Antioch Village Code regarding natural gas use tax, ordinance number 2508-27. We have a motion to approve in a second,
So moved.
waiving the second.
Waiving the second reading.
Second.
Motion waiving the second reading by trustee Peterson, second by trustee McNeil. Any questions?
I make a comment that this is for the people that kind of are getting around it.
I'm sorry, trustee Mason. could
This
you
is
speak?
for the people getting around it. This isn't everybody tax.
Right,
Explain it. That's not an everybody tax.
correct.
Anybody,
Attorney can explain it maybe, so the audience, YouTubers.
I think he's asking you to explain, I can barely hear
No, I do believe an explanation may be warranted. Thank you, trustee. If it's okay with the administrator, Mr. Peterson, can give a very brief explanation of this.
My voice is gone.
Thank you, and to answer your question, yes, this is, this tax, the natural gas use tax addresses a loophole in the utility tax by taxing persons, businesses, and corporations who purchase natural gas from outside of the state of Illinois. Currently, the utility tax that we have in place, for natural gas tax is for anyone purchasing gas from within Illinois, so, it should be mostly the larger businesses, but yes, there could be individual homeowners. I did the survey as you requested. There were 3 communities that currently have the natural gas use tax, and really surprising to me that both should be passed at the same time. The utility tax and the natural gas use tax, which have all been done at one time. Why it hasn't been that way throughout multiple communities beyond me, but it's leaving dollars on the table, and it's unfair to the residents that are paying the tax and others are not paying. And again, I believe it's more of the larger businesses that need.
You don't have the ambit. I'm sorry, ambit, like my voice is gone, ambit. We're buying it from Texas, those types of people.
It could be someone like that, yeah.
Trustee Bluthart?
One quick question for the attorney. I noticed in his survey here that the communities that have allowed this are all home rule. And if out of these communities, we'd be the first non-home rule community that would pass this. So I just wanted to confirm again that this is allowed and we're able to do
Permitted.
And then just a thought on this real quick is, I do have a concern with this, not the rule in general, or the tax in general. I want everyone who's buying the gas to pay it equally. My concern is because we can't tell who this is gonna impact, that I'm just really worried that if we pass this and it ends up hitting people or double hitting people, we're gonna need to amend this very quickly.
It will not double.
I know, we're saying that, but we can't say who it's gonna hit, correct? We don't know who's gonna
It
be.
cannot double.
Anybody purchasing the night for is already paying their utility
I'm
tax.
sorry, what did you say?
Anyone purchasing from NICOR is already paying the tax.
Oh, that's my only concern.
Trustee McNeil? Trustee Martinez?
No question.
Trustee Peterson?
No question, Chair.
Okay, I have no questions, so roll call?
Mason,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a consideration and approval of an ordinance amending sections of the Antioch Village Code regarding licenses selling products containing tetrahydrocannabinols and kratom. Ordinance number 25-08-28. I would ask an explanation either from the attorney or from the
The
administrator.
administrator is very well versed in this matter. I look forward to his explanation.
Well, good punch, Jimmy. So, just to recap, the village, I don't know, probably a year or two ago, established an ordinance prohibiting the sale of any product containing the synthetic cannabis products, Delta hydrocannabinol 8, Delta hydrocannabinol 9. At some point, I think there's going to be a hydrocannabinol 10, as well as prohibiting the retail sale of kratom. The proposed amendment came forward from one of our members of our business community that felt that he was being leveraged with an unfair, competitive opportunity as compared to nearby communities that do not have these regulations in place. Specifically, it was to allow the sale of the THC synthetic or hemp-derived versions of cannabinoids for beverage consumption. I'm sure you've probably seen on some of the advertisements. Vinny's is selling these products and whatnot. It's one of those mixed batches. And I know it's a hard decision for to make to balance interests of public safety against allowing our businesses a competitive advantage within the marketplace. Even for me on the personal professional side of things, on the administrative side of things, I understand the business desire to do so, but on the public safety side of things, I still have concerns with this. I've been having a lot of discussions with folks on this. Just recently had one over the weekend with somebody that I know well for a long time. They're like many people indulge in alcoholic beverages, like have a beer, go to a tavern, have a couple of beers. Had the opportunity to have this first experience with THC beverage, assuming that he would react similarly to having a beer or two. And the experience he reported to me was, as he went outside to work onto his yard, all of a sudden one of his neighbors drove by and said, "Hey, you okay?" He had been lightning focused on working on his sprinkler head in his yard. He doesn't know if he was there for 15 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. That was based off consuming one half of one of these beverages. So on the law enforcement side of things, I do have reservations and concerns about the roadway safety. My professional network, the Illinois Chiefs Association does, getting close any expansion of these types of products. They got understanding that somebody can't currently go to a nearby community, purchase these things, come back and consume it at home, and we still face the same challenges. So it really does come down to a philosophical question of the board of where they lie with this. And ultimately the decision is yours and forward.
Trustee Mason, any questions?
No, I just got a problem, just because of, I get we're gonna do an age limit of 21 on it. I just think if the drinks being sold are marketed the youth, and just like he said, I've got friends that have done the same thing, and they'd rather smoke marijuana than that because it put them in a zone that they weren't comfortable with, and they're big stoner head spot smokers. And after he told me that, because I asked around too, the scary part is someone that just tries it or has it by accident, gets behind the wheel, and it kills someone in the village's family member, because it is the one that doesn't hit you like alcohol. I would have to be a no vote, and I'm sorry for the businesses, but just like the downtown ordinance, it's not about money. That keeps getting stated, it's not about money. So, and this is a life safety, and I've always voted on the side of life safety.
Are you through, Trustee Mason?
Yes, I'm through, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee
When I
Mason?
stop talking.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm supportive of this measure.
Trustee McNeil?
And I like the safety precautions that we put in place and hoping that the adults are responsible with it, as we hope that they will be, so I'm in favor.
Thank you. Trustee Martinez?
Again, I'm an IDOT employee, so this doesn't fall as a substance that I could consume, and yet I will allow adults that are 21 over to make adult decisions, especially on a product that has been approved by the Federal Drug Administration and has been sold in our community in the state of Illinois since 2018. So,
Trustee Peterson?
I have nothing further.
Okay. Like the chief, I'm really torn on this one because, I've spent my entire life, well, my youth was probably not my entire life, it had its own issues back then. But once I joined the Navy, we spent many years fighting the scourge of marijuana and its effect on society. And I've had family members who start there and end up other places. And I've seen the effects of drinking on families. To follow up on Trustee Mason's remark about the accidents I've seen firsthand, the effect on families. My wife's brother was in a car accident, killed three other people besides himself. So any type of intoxication while you're driving is dangerous and bad. And their family 50 years later hasn't recovered. I'm really torn on this because I just don't approve of it. I don't think it's good. But I'm up there driving in Door County and I'm like, oh, I'm in vacation land of America, you know, the heartland. Here we are. Oh, what's that sign on that little restaurant over there in the corner? Selling THC beer. You know, it's everywhere. And do I think it's the smartest thing? No. I think it's personally, I think it's stupid. I don't agree with it at all. But at the same time, we're hurting our businesses in this case. So I'm really torn. I still haven't decided how I'm gonna vote, whether it's a yes or no, but it's that time. So, any other comments?
I'll make a comment. This is how people, I think, felt about, I wasn't around. But I'm sure this is how they felt with prohibition, and they struggled with that. And this is something that's very similar, I think, to, it's something brand new. And we have to deal with it. It's everywhere.
Yep. Thank you. Roll call. Oh, I need a motion in a second. I thought we had some.
So moved, waiving the second reading.
Second,
Okay. Motion by trustee McNeil, second, waiving the second reading, seconded by trustee Peterson. Now we do roll call, right?
Mason,
I see too much being 10 years on the rescue squad. No.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Peterson,
yes.
Motion passes, 5 voting yes, 1 voting no. And then we have a motion, consideration or approval of an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to sell, salvage, or otherwise dispose of equipment, ordinance number 25-08-29. I have a motion to approve.
So move. So move, do we need to waive the second?
Yes, we did.
So move, waiving the second.
Motion by trustee Bluthart waiving second reading and seconded by trustee McNeil. Any questions, considerations, concerns? Roll call.
Mason,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
Okay, next is consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the Public Works Department to acquire one Ford Transit full-size van in the amount of $52,629. Resolution number 25-65. Do I have a second? Waiving the second read. Do I have a motion waiving the second reading and a second?
So move waiving second reading.
You have a second.
Not yet.
You have a second.
No, I have a second.
You have a second.
Okay. Motion by trustee Peterson, waiving second reading, second was seconded by trustee Bluthart. Any questions, concerns? Roll call. Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right, the next is consideration and approval of resolution authorizing supervisory control and data acquisition, which is a SCADA system upgrades for the water and sewer system. Resolution number 25-66. Do I have a second? Waiving the second. Do I have a motion waiving the second reading and the second?
So move waiving the second reading.
Second.
Motion by trustee Peterson, waiving the second reading and second by trustee Neal. Any questions, concerns?
Point of order, is there a question? These are resolutions according to this. Do we need to waive the second reading?
It's not, you don't need to, but, it's not, if we wanna go forward with the motion as presented, that's okay. And the next one we won't do. I did not yell at you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Should have caught me already. Thank you. Roll call.
Mason,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
Next item on the agenda, I'll let pass. Motion carried, 6 voting yes. Next item on the agenda, consideration and approval of resolution regarding the release and non-release of certain minutes of executive session. Resolution number 25-67. They recommended to keep it closed. Is that?
Yeah.
You explain that?
The veil of secrecy still needs to apply to all these matters would compromise the financial and operational risks of the village. So our recommendation would be to vote to not release those certain minutes of executive session. We do not need to waive the second reading on this matter. I apologize, Mr. Chair. This is a resolution.
Do we have a motion and a second to not release these minutes? So moved.
Second?
That's the correct motion.
It's a perfect motion.
Thank you. I believe Bluthart and Peterson. Any questions?
No.
Roll call.
Mason,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
I believe I'm gonna let the attorney handle item.
Sure, thank you. So, on item number 11, which we had 2 public hearings about in multiple meetings, is a consideration and approval of ordinances annexing the property along North Grand Avenue into the village of Antioch, including but not limited to, and I'll go in reverse order or opposite order. The saying withdrawn is 40694 North Grand Avenue, but including the following: 40824 North Grand Avenue, 40810 North Grand Avenue, 40792 Grand Avenue, 40764 Grand Avenue, 40746 Grand Avenue, 40738 Grand Avenue, 40724 North Grand Avenue, 40682 North Grand Avenue, 40648 North Grand Avenue, 40640 North Grand Avenue, 40628 North Grand Avenue, 40588 North Grand Avenue, and 40568 North Grand Avenue. Again, that is exclusive of 40694. The recommended action would be to consolidate all of these matters into one and then vote on the consolidated matter. So the appropriate motion for that would be to consolidate items 11, Roman numeral 1 through 7, and then 9 through 14.
Waiving the second reading this time?
Waiving the second reading at all times. Thank you, Mr. I'm glad I gave you the opportunity to correct. Yeah, waiving the second reading on this and the following matter as well.
Do I have a motion as stated by the lawyer?
So moved. Second?
Okay, motion by trustee Bluthart, second by trustee Peterson. Any questions? Roll call.
Mason,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
And I would then ask for a motion to approve the consolidated items
With the second reading already have been waived.
with the second. Perfect.
So moved.
Moved by Bluthart,
Second?
second by trustee Peterson. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mason, Luther,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
And this will,
Motion is approved. I vote 6-0.
and this will allow for the the annexation of these properties upon the passage of all legal contingencies as required by state law.
Yes, please.
So, no-
Item do 12 also.
and item number 12, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Very similar to item number 11, this is a matter which has been before the Planning and Zoning Board, and we've held multiple public hearings with regards to this. So it is a consolidate consideration and approval of ordinances entering into an annexation agreement substantially similar to the one that's been presented to you today for properties along North Grand Avenue into the village of Antioch, including but not limited to the following. And again, it will be exclusive of 40694 North Grand Avenue, 40824 North Grand Avenue, 40810 North Grand Avenue, 40792 North Grand Avenue, 40764 North Grand Avenue, 40746 North Grand Avenue, 40738 North Grand Avenue, 40724 North Grand Avenue, 40682 North Grand Avenue, 40648 North Grand Avenue, 40640 North Grand Avenue, 40628 North Grand Avenue, 40588 North Grand Avenue, 40568 North Grand Avenue. And before the Mayor Pro Tem corrects me, that would be the motion would be waiving the second reading, consolidating those matters for the approval of an annexation agreement substantially similar to the ones that have been attached before the board.
So moved.
Perfect. Any
Second.
second? That'd be seconded by trustee McNeil. Any questions?
Yes. Do we have anything in the agreement that, you know, if they came back and all of a sudden they wanted sewer and water?
That, those terms are not in the agreement as now. Trustee Mason is an excellent, Mr. Chair, may I answer?
Sure.
All right.
Glad you are.
It's sorry, I apologize. But no, trustee Mason, that's an excellent question. We do not at this point in time, but those are yet to be, those terms and provisions can be negotiated in them. That's why we made them substantially similar. Obviously, any changes to one or all or any of the agreements will be brought back to the board in memorandum form, so the board knows what's going on.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? I'll entertain roll call.
Mason,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
Okay, and then I would look for a motion to approve the consolidated items as presented.
So moved.
Trustee Peterson. Seconded by trustee Bluebird. Any other questions? Roll call.
Mason,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right. Yes. Motion carried.
The, again, this is based upon a recent change in the annexation law pursuant or under the Illinois Municipal Code that allows for contiguity to be determined through water. That is for items 11 and 12. It's a very recent change in the law, and we are actualizing it. So thank you very much, and thank you for your interest in the village of Antioch.
Welcome to the village.
All right, we're gonna move on to item number 13 now, which is consideration and approval of ordinance authorizing the text amendment to the village's zoning ordinance Title 10, amending section 10-10-3 Alpha Table 1 to allow for business support services within the downtown Antioch form-based code area in the village's core district, transitional core district, and the main street transitional district and permitted land use. And I would need a motion with a second reading. Waiting a second reading. That's all right. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Well, you're welcome. Thanks a lot.
So moved, waiving the second reading.
Thank you.
Second.
Neil. Thank you, Trustee
Second.
Peterson. Any questions? Roll call.
Mason,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
Motion passed with 6 voting yes, no voting 0. And that would lead us to the administrative 0 voting no. 0 voted 0. Thank you. Critics everywhere. Peanut gallery. Peanut galleries galore. The administrator's report, does the whole crowd that's here for the annexation agreement need to remain, or can we give them a minute if they want to leave, or?
Now they wanna know what we're doing.
What they might be doing is the whole thing.
Think you can start, chief? You're the one that told me to hurry up.
Your call, sir. Just want to thank everyone who was able to join us tonight for the Village Hall walkthrough. Anyone that wasn't able to make it, I guess, let me know when we can get you in there. Look anytime you'd like. As you notice when you're walking through, we prepare for our move. There's still some punch list items, a little bit that's taking place, but we're on track and planning to execute the move on August 21st and 22nd as scheduled. As a reminder, Village Hall will be closed on both dates and will reopen the following Monday, ready to serve the public. We will be advertising the closure on our social media networks to make sure that our stakeholders are well informed. I would like to recognize our staff for their tremendous effort in planning for an upcoming execution of this move. For anyone that's moved a household, you can imagine the scale and complexity that's involved with moving an entire Village Hall operation. I think Rachel is ready to kill us all probably, so she's a saint for working through this. So I'd just like to extend my thanks to all the staff for working through this and their hard work. As part of our move, we continue to evaluate our operations. We'll be proposing a slight modification to our village hall hours once we move into the new facility. We're proposing that our offices will close at 4:30 instead of the current 5 o'clock. Over the last several months, front office staff under Lori's direction has been kind of monitoring our service levels within Village Hall during that last hour of business. We have very low foot traffic. We don't anticipate there's going to be any impacts on our service delivery. A lot of our things have transitioned to online and web-based services, and most of the foot traffic does happen earlier in the day. Update on the fire alarm monitoring. I know it's come before the board a couple of times with the proposed request from the fire district on consolidation of alarm monitoring services. Just so the board is aware that those discussions do continue. We had a very productive meeting earlier this week with the fire district, our staff, legal counsel, along with the proposed vendor that is going to be servicing Lakecom. And we're making some adjustments to the proposed ordinance to make sure that there's minimal impact to our business community. We anticipate hopefully this coming before the board again next month. Just a small update on the marketplace project. I know a couple of you reached out to me individually, just kind of inquiring where that project currently stands. As you know, the village has been waiting for some time for the complete financial analysis done by our independent advisor, SB Friedman. They did submit their analysis report to us about a week ago. We had an internal meeting with them to discuss their analysis and their evaluation assessment of what level of financial assistance would be appropriate for the project. While we don't want to go into the details of it, if you have questions, if you'd like to give me a call offline, I'd be happy to walk you through that. But kind of the next course of action for us is myself and Attorney Pacelli are working out a term sheet to respond to the developer's formal ask for financial assistance for the project. As far as timelines go, it's not mission critical for us right now. We still are under IDOT review. So until that permit is approved by IDOT, they can't begin the project anyway. So things are kind of moving along at the appropriate pace. And lastly, just a reminder, we have our back to school bash concert tomorrow with Royal Bliss. Looks like the weather is going to be fantastic. I hope to see everybody there. And I would just like to acknowledge Commander Garcia for the months of planning and coordination to ensure this event is both safe and well protected. We have implemented a number of the items that were brought up in feedback during our previous concerts debrief. We improved added a safety lane, which I know was mentioned by a number of trustees, to make sure that we can have effective crowd management flow through the portion of Skidmore. Katie and her team have come up with kind of a creative way to team that up with some improved accessibility seating. There's been a number of other protocols that were implemented based on some of the feedback that we did. So every time we do this, I think we'll get a little bit better. And again, after this event, if you have any constructive feedback, positive, negative, or otherwise, please let me know and we'll work through them. With that, unless there's any questions, that will conclude my report.
Thank you, sir. Village clerk report? We have nothing. Trustees, nobody submitted anything, but okay. Departmental reports. I think the first one is correctly community development.
Hello, so we're still in the process of interviewing possibly in the future for a building inspector. We have been fortunate enough to get more resumes than the first time around. The second thing is I'm working on the building code that's associated with the ICC 2024 code. Just working out minute details so it's perfect. So that's going to be coming to the board next meeting, making sure that there's no errors. That's what I'm really spending time on. A lot of it has to do with the fire sprinkler issue. Since we're not mandating it for the codes, then different codes change. Those changes have to be reflected properly. Section, subsection numbers correctly. So that's where I'm in the weeds of stuff. But it's going to be coming to the board. so we can move forward on that. And then, talking to different people about concept plans, so I reached out to the developer who came in front of you about developing this property. I spoke with him over the phone. I sent him an email with some of the details that different people here had. Variety, production of the apartment numbers, parking, stuff like that. So there is a discussion, so we'll most likely be back with alternate renderings and a smaller scale apartments and probably more parking on site. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware. I was also fortunate enough to meet up with the developer of St. Peter's, the administrator, the mayor and I met with him. He's gonna probably be submitting a concept plan through planning and zoning. It's gonna come to the village board about redeveloping that property. I haven't received anything yet, so still waiting, but that's coming down the pipeline.
Any questions for Howard?
Howard, and maybe, Jim, what are legal standings? I appreciate what the concept plan was of 42 apartments. Do we have any legal grounds where we can say, you know what, we don't want apartments, we want condos? Is that a moratorium?
I do know that there was talking, I believe that there was a moratorium at some point in time. It is somewhat of a tricky issue. The one issue with regards to all land use, if I may, Mayor Pro Tem. With the one issue with regard to all land use is there was a request for incentives that they did talk about at that point in time. So if you do want to impose any type of requirements, if someone's asking for incentives, that's contingent on the deal. What you do is you just don't grant them the incentives. They can't.
And the only reason I bring it up is because I have to say anything against people that live in apartments, but I feel that, just like we're talking about annexation, that I feel that you have more skin in the game if you actually are a landlord, actually are someone that has more commitment to the ongoings of our community than someone that can just rent here 1 month and be gone someplace else. I would.
And please keep in mind that when people do reach out to me about these types of projects, I always say, we're looking for condo versus apartments. That's always one of the first things I say. Second is pay as you go. Check learning.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Howard. That would lead us to Michael with finance.
Thank you. And start off saying that today was one of the best days I had in 7 months, and it was because of the audit that we completed the journal entries and we submitted the trial balance today, which means we're pretty much done with the books. We have the deadline was 3 days from now, so basically 24 work hours ahead of schedule. So thrilled about that. Outside the auditors will be on site beginning August the 18th, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I believe they'll be here. I think that we can probably get them out the door by then. So Thursday, Friday, they should be remote back at their offices, and they should just be sending questions to us. We should be able to send them their information. We do the upload to a portal for them, a secure portal, and that's where we've been uploading all of our documents really. So I talked to them last Friday. They said that you're ahead of schedule. You're ahead of a lot of others. I think you'll be fine and dandy. This is all good news for me. So thrilled to death. So we'll be shifting gears with the audit to once we kind of get through this field work with them, but we're shifting gears into the language side of the audit. So a lot of focus on the management discussion and analysis. You probably hear it mentioned as MD&A. So it's all the language that goes in the audit. And there's about 40 hours of work in there, so it does take some effort. At the same time, I'll be sending out the statistical section to the various departments and have the directors populate all the statistical information that goes in, says police department, how many arrests, public works, how many houses are you serving, how many miles of water main, roads, all those statistical items. So that'll all be going out soon, and they'll have like 3 weeks to a month to get back to me. You can see that we're all working hard on moving day for Thursday and Friday of next week. Trying to find time to get through all the old paper files. So I have paper files in my office, as well as I know there's at least one file cabinet, 4-drawer lateral I got to get through. The banker boxes are not the issue. Those are all pretty well labeled. We know what the retention period is for each of those, but these files that I'm talking about, you literally have to go paper by paper to see if it has a retention period that we need to hang on to it, or if it's just a communication item that really had a 1-year retention period that we can just throw out. But you have to go through them literally page by page. So that's kind of a pain. Just informational, we are changing the village credit cards for the directors from FNBO to Elon. This is State Bank's preferred third-party service provider that they recommend, and we've been working with. We're just waiting on one final approval from them, and then we should use. So we're switching out our cards to FNBO for all the directors that are new. So we're moving from credit cards to P cards, purchase cards, if you will. Great news, senior accountant is moving through the process and has a tentative start date of August 25th. So I think I would be thrilled to have somebody be able to help out. BSNA project is on schedule. It's the software migration. The go live date is still October 27th, so it's still on target. And the last item I have is talked with Mayor Gardner and Administrator Gutchow. They approved that I do a soft poll of the board to gauge your direction and level of support for passing the credit card processing fees onto the customers. I mentioned, I'll tell you why I'm asking for the soft poll is because along with this whole BSNA migration, we're at a point where I need to know an answer or a direction from you that if I put all my time and energy to something and then I come back to you and say, absolutely not good. I just burned a lot of time and energy. I don't have that time and energy right now to burn. So I just kind of need to feel you out for your direction of it. So I mentioned that we would be addressing the change in credit card process, credit card acceptance services in conjunction with the BSNA deployment. So I told you that Forte that we have currently their customer service is really bad. It's very upsetting to staff. I believe it causes some issues with the customers, which then also come back to staff. And so that's really the biggest reason. I'm not looking at it saying, oh, we're going to save, tens of thousands of dollars. We don't care if it's costing an extra $500. They have to go. And so we're going to make the change. But what we're needing to know, let's see, that when I say we're doing this, really Rachel feels really busted hard. She is working so hard at this. She's the one who's been digging deep to get all the detailed information about total transaction costs, how many transactions, those are all the information that's needed to make the switch over. And we're working with the BSNA payment specialist now in a few days, and it's coming along. Ideally, when we make this transition to the new software, there's going to be different things that are changing that we need to reach out to the customers and communicate the changes. One of them is going to be that people that have currently signed up for the auto withdrawal from their bank accounts for payments, that they would have to reapply, and that is going to cause frustration and it may cause us to lose some of those people. Having customers allowing us to go into their bank accounts and withdraw the monies that are owed for the utility bills is the cheapest way to process payments.
And it is the easiest for staff. If you think about it, I said, 100% of the people are all gonna sign up. You literally have nobody coming to the front door, nobody paying credit card, no additional costs like that. You don't have to be working on the website with those things. We would just send a file to the bank turns around, pulls the money out of the account, it's in our account, and then we upload that file into our system, and all the payments are processed. Done. That's simple. That would be ideally where you want to be. Having people come to the counter, pay by check, pay by cash, pay by check, it takes up staff time, and you have to stop, do the processing right then and there. So it's a little disruptive. It is a great customer service, obviously. But I'm just looking at the time savings and the cost of it. And ideally, we need to be more promoting the auto withdrawal from the customer's account. And so because of the switchover and the need for them to re-sign up, we want to have the communication of all the little changes that we're doing all in one package to them. Instead of saying, we need this done, and then we come back and say, hey, we changed our credit card processor. And some people have set up an auto payment from their credit card to pay their utility bill. And so those all would have to be corrected as well. And so we're trying to come up with the communication that's going to kind of hit all the items in a single shot. Otherwise, it sort of would feel like you had this change and you did this, and now you're coming to us with this. It makes us feel like you didn't know what you were doing when you had us do that. Now you're having us do this. And it's like step by step making changes. It doesn't seem like it seems like it should all be one package and you communicate it one time to everybody. And so it'll be a lot, but we think we could get that done. And so in this need of knowing from you all, if we're also going to be passing on the credit card fees, this is the time that I kind of just need that to gauge your feelings on this. You are not voting yes or no. It's just that soft poll. But if I see an extreme one direction or the other, it gives me the direction. If it seems like it's 50-50, then I'm still gonna have to go through the legwork and then wait for the final yes, no vote, right? So if you don't mind, what I'm asking is, do you want to pass along the convenience fee to the residents? Would you mind me going around or just getting feelings, or would you like to do that?
We can, why don't we just, rather than go one by one, why don't we just talk about it generally?
Sure.
We just start wherever you want to start, Mayor Pro Tem.
Trustee Peterson.
I think we should pass it along. Absolutely. Any fees, since they impose that with credit cards, everyone's used to that. You go into a restaurant, you're gonna pay that. You go into a store, you're gonna pay that extra fee. It's the way it is now. I go ahead.
I greatly appreciate it. I should have given you a little more information on this. The good thing is now behind me tapping. I'm saying, Mike, I asked you specifically to point out a few items that a few sheets of paper, and I put the page up. Oh, there's my note. So let me tell you that did a survey, or a survey have recently gone out of 22 communities. 9 of them passed the fees along to the customers, and I have that list like that list passed along. In the utility billing alone, there's over $30,000 in fees. We're currently paying just short of $69,000 in total. So that's all the other things that we accept money for beyond utility billing. The permits, there's tickets, pretty much everything can be accepted by credit card is my understanding. This excludes the parks department. They're completely separate. They would still remain with Forte because of the relationship, the interface that it has with the civic.
Yeah.
Which one am I saying?
Civic rep.
Civic rep. Thank you. I think that's it. I'm sorry.
I think that we should do this. We should pass it along. We're dealing with taxpayer dollars here. There are taxpayers up there, but they're fees like anything else. And we should pass that along. Me as a taxpayer, I'm used to it. So I have no problem with this at all.
Finance director, by chance, these fees, when we were tallying them once before, we were saying they're close to $100,000 a year. expense?
If my number was 42 the first go around, the mayor had, he said, I don't think your county's this or that, and he may have been right, and he said, I think he's pushing 100,000. So that's where that number came from, but now a little more look, call it the 69-ish.
Well, with that said, you know, we're talking about shortchanging ourselves on a mezzanine that, you know, in less than 10 years' time, we could recoup that loss. And so with that said, this is again, a cost saving measures for us that we could invest that kind of money into infrastructure. And when we were talking about the public works building earlier this evening, I think that it only makes sense. And so for that, I'm
Also in favor of it. I think people are accustomed to it and we should not be eating all those fees. My only question is, do you know now what it is? I know when there was discussion before, is it like just going to be a percentage? Or is it, didn't we talk about it before, like different rates, different fees, and then the mayor said, can we just do a flat? Do you know what it is? So like 3%?
We'll have to look if we could do a flat, currently the fees, what they're going to have to do a combining of somehow. If we say we're gonna pass it along, they're going to have to come up with a cost per person. Right now, what they do is they have a processing fee. There's a specific processing fee for the transaction cost. They have a per transaction cost, and then there's a fee based on the dollar amount of the transaction. And then there's two additional costs that they're not in that number, but if you're gonna charge it per individual, they're gonna have to come up with that specific percentage or flat fee or whatever. And I doubt it'll be a flat fee because of our services. Like I said, there's permitting tickets. So just tell everybody we're gonna charge you a flat 5 or something. It'd be way unfair when you have a permit that's like so expensive. So there's a lot of range in there. They would have to come up with that calculation for us. And that's what we're working through right now is, do you think this is gonna happen because they know that they have then work to do to prepare for it and have everything kind of set, ready for us? We can go to that next step.
I'm in favor, just if people ask me, like, to be able to articulate what they're looking at for fees, so.
Yeah, I went to Ellie's for lunch today and she said, you know, it's $19 or something. And I looked out at 20 and she goes, oh, paying by cash, it's $18. I'm like, well, there you go. More tip.
Thank you, that's all.
Trustee Kuzar.
I have no objection to pass along the fees. I'd like to see us look at, since it's a cost savings to us, if we get people to sign up, is maybe as an incentive to signing up for the automated withdrawals that you offer a one-time discount or something like that for people to sign up, whether it's a $10 credit towards their account or something that just gives them an incentive to wanna give us that information. Therefore, hopefully that draws up those numbers that we don't have as many
Absolutely.
after that.
I can tell you that when I was in Lincolnshire, it was 20% and I told them, you know, we need to be pushing the auto withdrawal. And one way that we did it was if someone said, you know, I put it in the mail on time and it got to you late, that's not my fault. And I'd say, you just tell them that I will waive that late fee if they sign up for auto withdrawal. And it's unbelievable. It's you're saving $7, $8 or something. Okay, I'll sign up. And we were 55% by the time I left. So
I just think sometimes you just sign up to that.
that's what it was.
You're gonna do a mailing with all these new rules and what all these fees are gonna pay. Now, listen, if you sign up for this, you can get this, then it might be.
Trustee Masek.
Shouldn't there be a discount for debit card?
So there is a lower cost
Right.
for debit card. But again, there's still that, the transactional is a lower number.
Right. But if you're making money, then using a debit card, charge it the same much, we might get trouble. Second part is when you're gathering routing numbers and account numbers, where is that going? Is third party, or do we have it that we gotta boost up our cybersecurity, and we have all that exposure?
Yep, great question. So what's talking about is PCI compliance. I can't remember. It's PCI DES or something. It's or something, but it says that, basically based on the volume of transactions and dollar amount of transactions, it tells you what levels of security that you have to have. And you don't want to have those risks, that's what he's saying. And so by this relationship we're going through, none of that data is in our system. They're taking on all that responsibility. So anybody signing up, none of those credit card things passed.
A lot of big companies went over to JP Morgan just for that piece of, they take that security over.
Yes, so we just had a soft audit for PCI compliance. I'll say it was 2 or 3 months ago. And Amy and I had to work through all the questionnaires and what comes with it. It's just audit.
But you got
So we made it through.
Yeah, you got 3 different bills, cash, debit card, and credit card. I don't know if we could say, with the debit card, we're gonna make an extra, because it costs us nothing for a debit card transaction. We're gonna charge a fee to make money on that, that wouldn't be right.
Yep, so we have to look at all that before we actually come forward with that ordinance. Just say what people will be charged if they came to the counter and pay by debit card, credit card. So all of that has to get solved out right now. Just trying to get that sense or direction from you that, again, if I put in this time and energy and then I came up here and it was 100% no vote, I'd be like, okay, that I would have wasted so much time and now I've got myself, we have deadlines coming up that I can't miss. And the BSNA is a big one. So if we don't go live on 27th, there isn't much leeway there that they can literally push us out. I think Howard and I were talking about an item, and Howard said, all right, I'm gonna get all this done. We're staying on track, because he's been busy and I'll get out too. And they said, if you don't have this, we're gonna push that module out till the second quarter of 2026. And Amy said, no, tell them to stay late. So Howard did. He pushed through, so much appreciated.
So I just want to have my input also. You obviously get the feel of the board from what you've heard so far. I'm more of a traditionalist. I don't believe in charging the fees. I think it's a cost of doing business. I think it's unfit. I don't appreciate restaurants that do it. I know they do it. I have to go to the bank much more now because I pay cash as much as possible because I don't like the fees. I just don't agree with that. I don't think, I grew up in a different world, a different time, and you didn't charge fees for doing business. You did the business.
Yep.
So I don't necessarily agree with it. But obviously, it's a new age and you've got to fill into the board.
So when you think about it, I know that you often make comments that you really want to protect the part of the community that you would say it's tough for them. We can't keep doing this, that, to them. We need to protect those people as well. And I want to protect those people, and I don't want to do this. The credit card processing fee is actually a redistribution of income to people, that the richer people have cards, and actually the American Express card has a 2.2% higher charge on it than the other cards do. And because somebody wealthier using that card has these higher fees, the person's paying cash, they're subsidizing them. There's your redistribution. So if you say, I want to feel more level, and I really want to encourage people more into the automatic withdrawal versus the credit cards, passing that fee along may be what encourages them to say, so if I'm signed up where you automatically put money on an account, I don't pay the additional cost. You don't. But if you want to use a credit card, there's a convenience cost to that. You should pay that. But the person paying by cash or check should not be having to subsidize you. And that's what this is doing.
But here's a philosophical opposite of what you're saying. I have the ability to go to the bank and get cash. I could walk in here, pay cash for whatever I need to pay cash for. I have the ability to go to the bank and get cash, pay cash at the restaurants. I have the ability a lot of people don't have that ability. They're living on their credit cards. They're living paycheck to paycheck. So they have to use that credit card. They can't set up an auto debit because they don't know how much is in their bank account, because it's unfortunate. I mean, there's a lot of people in society that are one paycheck away from not having a house. My neighbor just had to sell her house because she couldn't make her house payments. You know, people are being impacted by the economy of the last 4 or 5 years, not just the tariffs of today. They're being the economy has really hurt people. So a lot of people are using credit cards and debit cards and whatever they can to pay the bills. And now we're tacking an extra fee on because that's the new way of doing things. I just don't agree with it. So I'm just stating my point, because you're talking about redistribution of wealth. I'm benefiting by not having to pay those fees. The people that don't have the money aren't benefiting because they're trapped into paying those fees. So I could argue probably all day with you on the philosophy of this. I'm just stating how I feel. I do have a personal question though. My wife does bill pay, which is not debit, it's not auto withdrawal, because we don't like you controlling when you withdraw the money. We like controlling when we pay the bill. Is there a charge going to be for the bill pay?
So, bill pay, the occasional frustration customers have is that they see immediately, when you say, I want to pay my utility bill, and you see the money's withdrawn from your account, you consider it paid.
No, it's not. It has a payment date.
It's not until we receive it. And so sometimes we receive those late, and then they wanna get all upset with our staff saying, I could show you my statement where it came out 3 days before me or something. Your statement means nothing. It's about when we receive the money is when the penalties come in. So there's a frustrating part there that does happen. There's a service I haven't researched that piece yet, but there was a service, and I'll say, I'm not as up to date with utility billing. I don't have to do this all the time, but it's 10 plus years ago. But what would happen is that a service would say, let me find everybody that's paying that way. And they had a way of collecting all and bundling it up and giving it to us as a file. And like, hallelujah, I'm getting this payment as a single file, instead of the way you're doing it is they're creating a paper check. And then we're still processing that paper check one by one, versus somebody captured that when it was moving through that financial error, captures it, grabs it, and says, here's all those payments in the movie. So we don't have to do the data entry, we're just uploading the file. And so it was a great model. I just need to see if that's going to be part of this service. We haven't got that deep in the discussion yet.
All right. I just like controlling when I give you the money, not just you controlling with check, you take the money. But anyways, we probably want to move on to the next topic.
I'm all good. Thank you.
Police, my favorite people.
So we recently hired a vacant records position, and we hired Robin Richards, comes with a probation of experience, she said, today. So we're filled all of our records, still operating at 70% staff control ranks, and that's due to 1 officer beyond FMLA, still 5 officers going through the hiring for the field process. We're asking for your thoughts and prayers for one of our officers who is undergoing testing again, where it bears cancer has returned. We'll have another update over the so. Some strategic priorities in July, we conducted over 200 traffic stops, investigated 47 traffic crashes, 37 with property damage, 10 with personal injury. Did have to call out major crash assistance, not 2 of them, but 1 occurring as a fatality. Of those we haven't been able to dispo out yet, we're waiting for lab results, which takes 4 to 6 weeks. That's why we have not seen follow up on. I know that Chief has informed you about the recent in the downtown area. The P is actively working with property owners to have it moved as soon as possible. We continue to make positive advances on that investigation. And we believe that the Chief will be in a position to announce arrest very soon. We're not going to be intimidated. We're going at permanent. Our department has raised over 15 grand in the Special Olympics, so we received, we'll get our name on the t-shirts. You guys file next year with their names on. Through the Antioch area clergy group, we attended 2 events this past month. One was a car wash at River Ridge Church in Spring Grove, who invited us out there. The other was Calvary Chapel in Lake Road, where they touched a truck and that passed. You guys saw that on social media. I know they're not in Antioch jurisdiction, but they are citizens who go to their church, so we're invited to the church, and that's why we asked this call. Our department completed our defensive tactics training at the high school last week. Next week we have firearms training again, and at the end of this month we'll have EVOP, which is the operations course. Chief Gutchow and I attended with other police leaders in Lake County and met with Congressman Brad Schneider about the weeks ago and discussed some police related topics, had good discussions. Both of SROs have been recertified, are beginning the school year in about 2 weeks, and we head back to schools. And we're starting to receive some shipments of our Axon body cameras. So that's nice. Is there any questions?
I just have one about our favorite park, the Sequoia Creek Park. Are the incidences increasing down there? Are they decreasing, or are we tracking the times the incidences occur?
Chief just tasked me with coming out with an Excel spreadsheet, times and incidents, broken down into 4 little blocks, and we're starting to compile that data right now. I think since the park's open, we've had over 590 incidents. We are increasing our patrols. We still have our CSOs on the patrol, which is dedicated to $20,000 budget line to, which should take us until October-ish.
Okay, thank you.
But we do continuously have losses.
I realize that. I'm just trying to figure out when the incidences are occurring, and
I'll be able to
try to work on policy to help with that.
Yeah, no problem. Chief tasked me with that, and I'll have that done shortly. I just started compiling the data earlier this week, so I'll have it next week.
People think ahead of me.
Chief has that ability.
If I could just follow up on the subject of the park, just so the board is aware. We have been looking at how other communities are managing some of the challenges that they have in their parks. You know, Fox Lake had a very similar project to ours. I had a very productive conversation with their chief DeServi down there a couple of weeks ago, and one of the tools that they implemented within their community was to establish a closing time for the park. I know as we discussed, park was open and was kind of viewed as a town square type environment. Fox Lakes is not quite a town square, it does have quite a community draw, and by imposing a closing period for their park did help address a lot of their problems. Business, they say no good things happen after dark. I think just based on the briefings that we received, we do face problems in the overnight hours. Fox Lake, with the design and laid out their park, they just look at it with their other park facilities where they close when it gets dark. You know, we have some unique amenities within our park that we try to encourage folks to enjoy after dark, such as the fire pits. So I don't know that having, you know, a darkness time closing period for our park would be effective. But we are exploring the potential of making a recommendation on closing hours for the park itself. Could be 8 lines, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, when some of those evening amenities do turn off. That does also allow law enforcement to, if somebody's in the park, they're in violation, it gives us some grounds for concessional encountering them and understand what they're doing in the park. Helps us to better identify and serve our homeless population that sometimes does spend the evenings in the park. Beyond that, I do have our legal team also exploring what other tools may be available to us. One of the suggestions that I posed to them to do some legal research on us is whether or not we have the authority to pass on a company minor curfew within the park. You know, so that would allow adults who wish to go into the park and enjoy some of those evening amenities to do so to a later period. Majority, I should say the overwhelming majority of our problems are with unaccompanied young people within the park. If you spend some time there yourselves, I think you probably experience those challenges firsthand. So if it proves to be something that's an option to us, you know, we can say at dark, if you're under the age of 17 years old, you can't be in the park unless unless you're with somebody that's 21 years old and gonna take responsibility for you and allow those that are older adults to enjoy these activities within the parks. You know, this would no way impact a mom and a family that wants to go to the park every year because they're with their child at the time, but it would just prohibit some of these groups of young individuals that continue to come out, particularly after dark, and continue to cause problems.
Yes, Terry staff. Just quote everybody.
I'm sorry, what did you say, trustee Mason? What'd you say? I couldn't hear you.
Just asked, how do you go up and ask for ID? Can't do Terry stops.
All right, thank you. Anything else under department reports? Oh, all right, next thing, I will need an executive session tonight for personnel and pending litigation. No. You have no action. No action, so I would need a motion to hold this.
Do you think that, do you want to do it?
I got my fancy legal language here.
Thank you.
So, we'll be going to executive session specifically, under C1 for the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of an employee.